Welcome to Trinity Radio. You found the Christian channel that loves atheists. But today we're not talking so much about atheism. We are talking about evidence for the truth of Christianity, and when it comes in the form of prayer. Now, I want to say that what I'm about to share with you is a personal thing, not personal to me, except for the fact that these are my friends, people that I know and have spent time with doing ministry, but it's personal to them, and you'll see why in just a few moments. This is a very, very powerful story. We prayed, I prayed publicly in a video that is linked, that you'll see on the screen, that's also linked in the description. And this was a prayer for a couple of people, a woman and her son, who I worked with in an underground church in Turkey when I was there, and we saw people come to Christ. And we prayed on Trinity Radio, and I asked you to pray with me, and I have no doubt that many of you did, and many of you, even as recently as a couple of days ago, have shared with me that you still pray for these people, our brothers and sisters in Turkey right now, who are struggling with this. And this mother and son were taken to prison on trumped-up charges that they were insulting Islam and insulting the Turkish people, when in fact, they were accosted and physically assaulted, and the son ended up in the hospital. And they were both put in prison. And you've asked for updates on this, and I'm here to give you the update, but not just an update. This is powerful evidence for the truth of Christianity through prayer. So I want to say a couple of things about that before we get into the meat of this story. First of all, I personally don't use prayer, and I don't know many apologists who do use answered prayers as the primary function of their apologetic. Maybe there is somebody out there doing that. But the thing is, prayer is a powerful evidence for those who are already committed Christians, and they see these prayers be answered anecdotally, but for them, it's real. They experienced it firsthand on a regular basis throughout much of their life. So for them, that is, of course, powerful evidence. In some cases, there are extreme answered prayers where a particular dollar amount down to the cent is needed and it comes in, or something like that. And Mike Lycona has a video like that on his channel, and we've talked about that on this channel as well. But I don't typically use prayer as an apologetic. But when I run into a case like this, where we were involved at Trinity Radio, you as the listener were involved, praying for a specific outcome, and the outcome doesn't just happen, but it happens in such an unlikely and just unbelievable if we didn't know that it happened. Okay, so let's talk about this. So first of all, let me familiarize you with the people involved here, and then we're going to talk about how this prayer was answered. So there was this couple, Bahar and Arsalan, Bahar's son, and I'm just going to go ahead and show you the pictures of them and a little clip from the video that I made back in April when this first broke. And so it's just a 2-minute clip. So if you want to skip ahead, if you've already seen it, just skip ahead about 2 minutes and you should be good. But here's a little bit about them. It's the lady in the red right there. Her name is Bahar. Her son, Arsalan, is right next to her in the white t-shirt there. Both of them looking at the camera. Wonderful, 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 beautiful people. I don't recall them saying anything critical of Islam directly, or of Turkey or the people of Turkey. However, there are some charges that that's what they were doing. I'll show you a couple of other things real quick before we get to the specific situation. Let's see. Here is the lady in the dark brown jacket and the manila looking dress is Bahar, again, who we just saw. And this is during the worship portion of their service in that church that I spoke at. And just to tell you, let me show you this first. This is pretty cool. So the night that I spoke there, and a couple of other guys spoke there who were with us, there were a number of people that came to Christ. This church has people that are invited that come in and are regularly they come to Christ because they start coming to the church because someone invites them, and they hear this message and they come to Christ, and it's a regular thing. And so on the night that we spoke, here is someone from our crew after we all preached, and here are some people that came forward who had accepted. Here is a man that this was just awesome. I call this video clip "Dancing Man." Yeah, so he came to Christ that night, an older man coming to Christ, hearing the gospel message in this underground church. So here we are now. Here is the letter that I received back in April when I first heard about all of this from a contact who I work with. For those that don't know, we actually have an arm of Trinity Seminary, Trinity College of the Bible and Theological Seminary, that is broadcast into not only the Turkish world, but the Iranian world, the very Muslim countries and regions where there is often an attempt to limit bandwidth so that it slows video coming in because they don't want certain political messages, to be to get out there and to impact people. And often ministry related or Christian messages they see those as things that can affect politics because for the same reasons that religion can affect politics anywhere. And so they try to limit that in some of those countries. But there's a ministry that I work with, and I have to keep some of this kind of quiet. But there's a satellite that we pay for. They pay for. The ministry pays for access to this satellite. I want to be clear: we Trinity don't pay for it. This third-party service that I work with pays for it. And but it broadcasts Trinity lectures, like from our school, our lectures into the Muslim world. And it's all dubbed, not just translated with subtitles, but it is dubbed into the Farsi language and can be understood and be heard. And I was just on a show on Friday that I'm going to make available to you very soon, in which I was answering questions from our students and from Christians who are in Tehran and places like that. So it's amazing what we're able to do. I'm doing a lot more in that area than I think I talk about very much, and there's obvious reasons for that. So anyway, one of our contacts sent me this letter back in April. It said, "Dear Braxton, please be advised that our sister Bahar, who you met in Denizli, Turkey, along with her son Arsalan, have been arrested and detained on trumped-up charges of insulting Islam and the Turkish people on Saturday, April 24th. They are currently in a detention center and with the possibility of deportation to Iran, which will certainly mean imprisonment and torture by the Iranian government. She has also started a hunger strike and not much access has been given to her. We are trying to arrange a lawyer who may be able to secure her freedom and bail and fight the charges. Her son Arsalan was severely beaten and hospitalized. He is also with Bahar in detention after a short treatment at the local hospital. Her daughter is a 20-year-old girl, is currently left alone and is in a state of panic and fear as she is alone all by herself at the house. We met them in 2019. Okay, so here's the here's the situation. So she really what my understanding is what has happened is they were having a conversation, a theological conversation in an apartment, and they were attacked because of this and beaten, and then they were arrested because they were supposed to have been insulting Islam and insulting the Turkish people when there's supposed to be a freedom of speech there in this way. And so she was taken to prison, and she was taken to a maximum security prison with very little hope. She knew she had friends on the outside. I wrote a letter as well to the powers that be about my impressions of her and that she never said anything negative about Turkey or about Islam or anything like that in my presence, which is true. And she, but aside from having some friends outside, she's just lost here. She feels hopeless. There's no way out. She's in prison. And they kept her in a room, isolated for 23 hours of the day. And 1 hour of the day, she would get out. Now, that's not much. That's 1 out of 24. 1 hour she gets to go out of this room. And when she goes out of this room, she doesn't go into some open area. And this would be very dangerous. Instead, they let her go out into a hallway, and all she gets is the change of scenery from inside her cell to the hallway. Well, one of these days, she's sitting out there, and this 1 hour, I mean, how important it had to be this hour. And on this day, she was sitting in the hallway, and a man walks by, very well dressed, beautiful suit and tie, and he says, "Who are you?" She says, "Well, my name is Bahar," and she introduces herself to the man. And he says, "Why are you here?" And she explains, "I shouldn't be here." And she tells the whole story. And he says, we're gonna solve this right now. And so he takes her and he goes to the warden and he explains to the warden that this woman shouldn't be here. And she said negative things about the Turkish people, and I think there was some suspicion that she had said bad things about their president Erdogan. And this guy says, no, you've got to let her go. Well, why does this man have the power that he does, that ultimately he does get her released? The reason he has the power that he does is they use different titles there. It's like deputy assistant or something like that, or director of something. But the point is, he's basically like he's like the secretary for the president of Turkey. He is like the vice president, basically. He's like in the president's inner circle, like his right-hand man. And he happens to be in this place at this time. This man who has this power and can release her, and everything's taken care of. She gets released. And then on top of that, she's not able to go back to Denizli, where her church is, and continue there because the local police say she's going to be in danger. The people that attacked her are still around, and this is not good. And so she has to go somewhere else. Where they wanted her to go was 10 hours away by car, 10 hours away. And once every couple of weeks, this woman, Bahar, it gets into a taxi and goes all night to Denizli to go to her underground church and do her functions there, and then leaves another 10 hours back the other way. I mean, it's like the Apostle Paul. It's unbelievable what she's doing for the kingdom. And when you're doing things like that for the kingdom, it's unbelievable how these dramatic answered prayers can happen. Now, what could someone say about that? Well, they could say, well, it's just, it was chance, it was coincidence, and all those sorts of things. Well, okay, but the chances that this innocent Christian woman and her son, who had so been abused, that she was in the right place in the hallway, the 1 hour of the day, on the right day that she needed to be there, and that this man paid attention to her, and that he took interest, and that he got her out of there. You can say that's a coincidence if you want, but that's got to be something like evidence. It's got to at least increase the likelihood that this is the result of an answered prayer. And of course, for Christians, as I said a while ago, once you see this happening day after day, week after week, with different things, not every prayer you want, not every prayer you pray gets answered the way you want it answered. But the fact is, so often it does. And when it does, it's often in ways that don't really seem like coincidence. I take this as an incredible answer to your prayers. If you are one of those praying with me for this outcome, how our amazing God has come through with this. I hope this helps you out just a little bit today. And please continue to be praying for our brothers and sisters around the world. I'll see you next time on Trinity Radio.